tax, you talk about a disaster. 23% on every home. How long do you think it'll be before we start selling homes again? 95% of the American people will get the shaft for that deal. Be a great deal for me if you really think I need more. I can tell you what the economics shows, the evidence shows, that the single most inefficient tax cut is for people who have a lot of disposable income because they will not and cannot spend all the money. Better for me to pay to send more kids to college, more workers to training programs, more green energy for Colorado. That's what the evidence shows. So he votes to give a 30% tax credit for new manufacturing jobs, for clean energy jobs. And Colorado gets 54 clean energy projects, 8 new manufacturing operations, big grant to improve your electrical grid. You're smoking. You're really doing well. He talked about this Vestas windmill plant. Remember when I said every successful country has a successful government and a successful private market? Vestas is the biggest manufacturer of windmills in the world. It is from tiny Denmark, which this year was just voted the most attractive place in the world for new business investment because the government put them ahead in the race for a clean energy future. So, his opponent proudly says that he is a climate change denier and it is terrible to subsidize clean energy. And apparently feels that way about natural gas. But he's fine on the oil depletion allowance, which basically keeps us dependent on the Middle East and doubles our trade deficit. So if you want new jobs, you don't have a choice. You have to vote for Michael Bennett. You have to. In the financing, I've already told you, he's the only candidate who's supported loan guarantees and attractive things to make the banks who have the money now. We fix them. They need to fix us. We need to get them to loan this money. And he actually has practical ideas. Plus which, the Wall Street Reform Bill says to the big banks who caused this, you can't do this anymore. No more putting $34 at risk for every dollar in cash you have. You can't do it. And if you sneak around and do it, the next time there will be no bailout. You, the executives, and your shareholders will eat the losses. That's what the law says that was passed. Now, his opponent says that's too much government. We need to repeal this law so they can go back to that job-killing gambling that got us in trouble in the first place. You want to finance the jobs of tomorrow? You don't have a choice. You got to vote for Michael Bennett. It's clear. This can make the difference in the election here, in the House races, and every other place. I want everybody to listen to me on this. Senator Bennett voted for a bill which is the most important advance in aiding people to go to college since the passage of the GI Bill. And I'm proud to say that because we added 10 million people to the ranks of young people getting aid to go to college when I was president. And the gains were gone in 5 years because of the exploding cost. Remember what I told you? We're first in the world in college going, but nowhere near first in college graduation. Okay? The Congress passed this law. Not 5% of the college students know this, much of this of the electorate. It said, we are going to lower the cost of college loans by loaning the money directly to the colleges to give to the students instead of paying big fees to banks as middlemen. We'll set aside a loan reserve here, and we'll do that. We did it on an experimental basis when I was president, saved every student $1,300 in repayment for every $10,000 they borrowed. That's real money. That's because they did that. But far, far more important, now listen, if you don't remember anything else I say, remember this. I'm serious, especially the young people. This bill gives every student in America with a student loan now and forever the absolute right to pay that loan back as a small fixed percentage of their income, never more than 10%, and if you're a teacher you have a lower pay, less than that, for up to 20 years, after which it'll be forgiven. No one ever has to drop out of college again because of the burden. When Senator Bennett pressed his opponent, he said, well, maybe I'm not against all student loans, but I do think we ought to repeal that legislation that just passed. It's too much government. And that is the position of Mr. Boehner and Senator McConnell. That is the Republican position. We are going to repeal that. Now keep in mind, this bill makes it cheaper to go to college, easier to repay the loan, and by the way, saves $60 billion on the debt because the defaults will go down and the costs go down. You're not paying a middleman. So the Republican position, they won't say it, but the Republican position is, vote for us, we'll raise the cost of going to college, make it harder to repay your loan, and add $60 billion to the debt. Why would anybody do that? Because the people buying those anonymous ads want their $60 billion back. You better vote for Michael Bennett if you want an educated America. Then there's the matter of the education and training. You know, I told you we had 3 million vacant jobs. This is a no-brainer. Right now, we only collect this information by region. But when they go back to Washington, if you'll re-elect him, we can arrange so that every month, the governor of Colorado and the senators and the members of Congress get a list of every job in the state that's been open for more than 3 weeks. And a check to train people to do just those jobs, which you can give to a community college, a certified training program, or the employer. We could get rid of those 3 million jobs lickety split, and the unemployment rate would drop 2%, and we'd be in a different world, not just economically, but emotionally, because we would know we were coming back. His opponent says that he supports the Republican budget, which will require, at a minimum, a 25 to 50% cut across the board in all education and training programs. If you want those 3 million people to go to work, you don't have a choice. You have to vote for Michael Bennett. And then there's this budget, this conservative budget. It's going to balance the budget. They're adding $770 billion by making all the temporary tax cuts permanent, 84% for people with incomes over $1 million. They're adding $60 billion by giving the banks back their money on the student loan and making it harder for kids to go to college. They're adding $100 billion back by repealing health care. Now, a lot of people don't believe this. They've done a real good job demonizing health care. Let me just say a word about this. That bill wasn't perfect, but I'd have voted for it. And he did his best to encourage and include more cost control measures, including a proven model from Colorado that will save billions of dollars a year. Isn't that right? So I can tell you 4 things right now I think ought to be done to it. We can do better at controlling costs and improving quality, but the worst thing you could do is repeal it. Right. And I want to explain why. I want to explain why they're for repeal, not reform. First, follow the money. Yeah. We spend 17.2% of our income on health care. No other rich country spends more than 10.5%. Canada. France and Germany are generally thought to have the best systems. They spend 10% of income. We insure 84%. They insure 100%. They have strict budgets, but not particularly long waiting lines in Germany and Canada, and businesses are involved, and it's fine. That's what we do. Every rich country has a higher life expectancy and a lower infant mortality rate than we do. Where is the money? You know how much the difference in 17% of our income and 10.5% is? $1 trillion a year. You know why the airways are full of disinformation about health care? The people with $1 trillion want to hold on to it. Right. It is. You want to know one reason nobody in America could get a pay raise in the last decade? Because we doubled the price of health care after inflation. That's right. And a lot of employers who desperately wanted to pay their employees more didn't have the money.